resigned from the Mercury project in 1964. Why? Why wouldn't they allow the most famous guy in the world to do that? That's right. President Kennedy grounded him because he did not want this new American hero to die in space. This was dangerous. They had a ticker tape parade for him. He met the president, and they had the capsule there and took pictures of the capsule, all kinds of things like that. But he never was allowed to fly as an astronaut again. What did he do after his career as an astronaut? He was elected to the United States Senate in 1974, representing the state of Ohio, and he served there until 1998 before he officially retired from politics. So after his dealings in the Mercury project, he was elected to the United States Senate in 1974, and he served until 1998. I don't have the exact date because we'll talk about it later, but what did he do after that? Anybody know? Wait, Myla. Nope. He went back into space. He was in his 70s and he rode one of the space shuttles into space and became the oldest man ever to be in outer space. We'll tell you that story later, but it happened. It's a great story. It's a great story. Now, off the top, you don't have to write this down. John Glenn died just a couple of years ago, and I'm going to tell you how it relates to us or me personally. He was in his 90s. His wife's still alive in her 90s. And he dies, and I hear about his death, and he's going to be buried in Arlington. And we are like a month away from going to D.C. that year. And so I'm pretty excited about the opportunity, at least, to visit his gravesite, a great American. So we're watching the funeral. I'm going to show it to you on video tomorrow. But anyway, we're watching it on CNN or whatever. And it was the coolest thing because his wife is very elderly, and the Marine Sergeant presents her with the flag. And this is pretty uncommon. She leans over and kisses him on the cheek, the Marine Sergeant, which you just don't see. I'll bet that guy will never forget that the remainder of his life, to be able to not only present the flag to the widow, John Glenn, but to have her kiss him on the cheek. I thought it was incredible. Anyway, I was very interested in where he's buried because Arlington's like this huge place. So I just happened to watch a video and saw another name of a soldier who had a tombstone up and looked him up. And I knew I was in the right area. So 3 years, I guess it's been a little longer than I thought. 3 years ago, we went back and I had a bet with Mrs. Bilodeau that he would not have a tombstone yet because it takes some time. And she thought he would because he's a pretty important person. But we get there and it just so happens that his gravesite's like 50 yards from the amphitheater, from the mast of the battleship Maine, from the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. Really close, very convenient. And as you walk down, it's like 4 graves over. It was kind of cool because I didn't know where it was until I had looked it up. Well, we get there, and the first year it did not have his tombstone. It just had a little marker there, and there was flowers there, and we took a picture there. And the next 2 years we went, his gravestone was there. It's pretty cool. It's in a really cool place, and you'll get a chance to see them. But that was a very famous flight, Friendship 7. Okay, that'll take us to our next one, which was Aurora 7, and it occurred on May 24th, 1962. Aurora 7. May 24th, 1962. And this was commanded by Scott Carpenter. Scott Carpenter. So he becomes the second American to orbit the Earth. He also goes around 3 times, just like John Glenn did. But he does something that has never been done from space before. Anybody want to guess? Very good, dear. He took the first photographs of the Earth from space. Okay, very good. So it was commanded by Scott Carpenter. He becomes the second American to orbit the Earth. He circles the Earth 3 times and becomes the first man to photograph the Earth from space. He also is the first American to eat solid food in space. They were eating kind of like, I guess, baby food in containers kind of. Before that, he was the first one to eat solid food in space. Now, he had a little problem too because when he re-entered into the Earth, into the ocean, he landed like 200 miles off target. That's a long ways. And it took the recovery forces over an hour to find him because they lost radio contact with him. They had really no idea where he's at, so they're having to search this vast area where he was supposed to land, and he didn't. And it was lucky, again, because an hour in one of those flimsy little capsules in the ocean is not a, that's not a good thing. But they were able to find him and recover him after an hour of delay. Now, you don't have to write any of this down, but I do want you to listen because it's kind of interesting. In 1965, Carpenter took a leave of absence from the Mercury project and he became an aquanaut. That was a new program in which they were exploring the depths of what? The ocean. And I thought that was pretty cool because he was not only an astronaut, but he was also an aquanaut. He resigned from NASA in 1967, and he decided to retire in 1969 because he had some leg injuries that didn't allow him to be in deep sea anymore. And he retired. He died, unfortunately, of a stroke in 2013 at the age of 88, but had an awesome life. I mean, he was a good man, Scott Carpenter. Okay, that'll take us to our next flight, which was Sigma 7, which took place on October 3rd, 1962. Sigma 7, October 3rd, 1962. And this flight was commanded by Walter Schirra, Jr. And he's going to become the third American to orbit the Earth. Walter Schirra, Jr. And he will become the third American. But how many times does he go around?
5.
Close. 6. He goes around 6 times. So he doubles the effort of Glenn and Carpenter, and he goes around the globe 6 times. So, I mean, we are kicking the Russians' rear now. Okay? What did Walter Schirra do before he became an astronaut? He was a combat pilot in Korea. He flew over 90 combat missions. That's quite a few combat missions and survived. You know what I mean? So he flew over 90 combat missions in Korea. And he also flew in both Gemini and Apollo. Very good astronaut. He also flew in both the Gemini and Apollo programs. But he flew on Apollo 7, this was later, and he caught the most famous cold in NASA history. He caught the most famous cold in NASA history. While he was in space, he caught a cold. Now, if you catch a cold, Elisa, and you don't want to go to the doctor, what over-the-counter medicine might you take? NyQuil? Dayquil? Benadryl?
Aspirin.
Aspirin, what'd you say? Advil. He took something called Actifed. It's on your ID sheet. I'm not sure if it's still available today or not. But he took Actifed. You're sure? And this relieved his symptoms in space. And what did he do when he got back? No.
What?
What did he do when he got back? Think about it. He became a spokesman for Actifed and made all kinds of money in commercials. Hey, if Actifed can take care of my cold in space, it certainly can do something for you back on Earth. And he made a lot of money. I'll get on YouTube and see if I can find one of those commercials because it's kind of interesting. He made a lot of money promoting Actifed because he got a cold in space and took that. You girls are driving me nuts, I gotta be honest with you. With this immature laughing. It drives me crazy. There's nothing funny about this. Is there anything funny about Actifed? Not a thing. Okay? Now, he retired from the Navy in 1969 and passed away in 2007 of a heart attack in California, and his ashes were also committed to the sea. All right, we'll move on to Faith 7. Faith 7. This was a 2-day mission, May 15th and 16th. May 15th and 16th, 1963. And it was commanded by Gordon Cooper, Jr. It would be the last solo flight in NASA history, which means what? From this point on, there'll be at least 2 astronauts on flights. These single astronaut flights were very, very dangerous for the astronauts that went up. And so they decided that they would no longer send solos. Anybody want to guess how many times he went around? 22. 22 times. And he was in space longer than all the other Mercury flights put together. Okay? He was in space 34 hours, 19 minutes, and 49 seconds. So he would log more time on this flight than all the other Mercury flights combined. 34 hours, 19 minutes, 49 seconds. Does anybody remember how fast the first capsule went?
180.
No, fast.
Oh.
Yeah, 5,180 miles an hour. This one went 17,547 miles an hour. 17,547 miles per hour. So we had made some improvements, okay? Now, you don't have to write this down, but I want to give you some more information. 2 years after this, he would command Gemini 5. That would be an 8-day, 120 orbit mission with a fellow astronaut by the name of Pete Conrad. Cooper then has a falling out with NASA, has a disagreement with them, because he was overlooked to command Apollo 13. You know what the story is on Apollo 13? You know, you've never seen that, heard that story? Apollo 13 was a mission that was going to the moon. Jim Lovell was going to command that mission. He was portrayed by Tom Hanks in the movie Apollo 13. And they get into space and they stir their oxygen tanks and they have a short and it blows all their oxygen basically or into space. And now all of a sudden they're halfway there and they are not going to make it and do their mission. And they can only hope that they can get around the moon and back and without running out of oxygen. It's a great story. But the ironic thing about this, and then the concern was, and we're going to watch it in class, but they put together this contraption, allowed them to conserve oxygen, which was just amazing on just what they had in the capsule. Anyway, that isn't even the problem. They get in the air, and when they start back, you have to re-enter Earth, you know what I mean, into a certain spot to keep from burning up. Well, they were way off course, and they compared it to a basketball and a sheet of paper going this way. That's the margin of error they had. And they lost contact with them as they were coming back in, and everybody thought they had burned up, and they actually, it was like a miracle. Well, this guy was mad because he didn't get to command that, and then it turned out to be a pretty risky mission in itself. Well, he resigned from NASA in 1970, and then he died in 2004 in California. And this was kind of interesting. He was cremated, and he put part of his ashes were sent into orbit around the Earth. He had his ashes sent into orbit. Some of them, not all of them, to signify the 22 times he had been. So, what are we missing? We're missing Donald Deke Slayton. He will not fly a mission because he was grounded for an erratic heartbeat. He had somehow, they missed it in the initial testing, or he just developed an erratic heartbeat, and they would not send him into space. Now, do you? Yeah, so you couldn't fly in space. Now, if you watched Apollo 13, it was ironic because they picked 3 astronauts to fly in Apollo 13 and 1 alternate. Well, one of the astronauts had gotten the measles virus, and they did not want to send him up and then have him get measles in space during the mission, so he was grounded because of that. Ironically, Donald Deke Slayton was the director of flight operations for Apollo 13, and he had to ground this guy, and he was grounded for one of the most important flights of his life, so it's kind of ironic. Slayton retired from NASA in 1982, and he retired in 1992, and unfortunately not long after his retirement he was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, and he died in 1993. But those are the Mercury 7 astronauts. And here's kind of what we got going for tomorrow. I think you'll really like this. So I'm going to give you about a 10-minute lecture on a remarkable story of African-American women who made Mercury go, especially John Glenn's flight. And it was made into a movie way later than it should have. I mean, from 61 to 2018 or 17, called Hidden Figures. Have you seen it? Yeah, it's very good. Now, here's what it's about. It's about African-American women who overcame prejudice and discrimination like you wouldn't believe. It's a great vision of civil rights as well. And they help with their mathematical minds and other things, especially one in particular I'll tell you tomorrow, helps get these rockets into space so we can win this race to space. So about a 10-minute lecture, we'll watch the movie the rest of Thursday and all of Friday, and I think we'll be done. If not, we'll finish it on Monday. But it's very worthwhile seeing. If you're not going to be here Friday or Thursday or whatever, I would really expect you to get it rented or get on Netflix or something and watch the movie, because if you, how many people have seen it? you'll have a little bit different perspective and understand it a little bit better after the lecture when you see it, because they'll introduce you to these pilots and that type of thing. Yeah, I'm going to show you this John Glenn thing. I'm going to see if I want to find this John Glenn thing.
So that the guy who was grounded because he got too famous was kind of like where they stopped him from going into war because they didn't want him to die.
Well, kind of, yeah, but he said, forget it. Yeah. Well, he didn't have an ailment they could ground him for, but it's similar, yeah. They didn't want him to, John Glenn, they didn't want him to go up anymore. Is that what you mean? They're talking about John Glenn, you're talking about Slade.
No.
John Glenn, yeah, they didn't want him to go up anymore because they didn't want him killed. And he listened, I guess.
Well,
The other one-
you say no to that.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we can find Actifed on YouTube first. I think that would be interesting. I haven't ever done that, so. Who was the astronaut?
Walter Charade.
Oh, look at this. We're going to find one here. Hit the lights there, Miss. I don't want I want an old commercial. He must have done a remake. Look at that, he did a remake. Is there one from... Oh, they don't. He must have done a remake here. Well, let's watch this one for the fun of it.
Can you imagine sneezing in one of these? I almost did. I'm Wally Schirra. When I suffered cold symptoms on my space mission, I took Actifed. An Actifed containing triprolidine gave me fast, effective relief. It's the nasal decongestant antihistamine tablet, most prescribed by doctors over the last 10 years for relief of nasal congestion, runny nose, and sneezing. Today, full-strength Actifed is available without a prescription. Actifed, most prescribed by doctors, now available without a prescription.
You know where he filmed that?
In the museum.
Yeah, he did. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what this one says here.
You think colds are bad on Earth? Try one in space. When you're weightless, nothing drains. Your nose, your sinuses stay stopped up. You feel terrible. That's why Actifed cold tablets are standard equipment for every astronaut. Actifed delivers. It's the cold tablet most recommended by doctors for fast relief in space and on Earth.
Well, there you go. There's a couple of them. Now, I want to see if I can... This is it. Yeah, this second I want to get the shorter version right here. This is, I think, the one I want you to see right here. Yeah.
Go back.
This is a guy I looked up right here, Carl Bascombe Herndon. That's who I looked up to find the spot. This is a walkway right here, and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier would be like right over here. It's really a beautiful place.
God to order and provide. In everything, we faithful will remain.
I'm sure you could figure that out, but you have how many men? 7 firing 3 shots, which is a
21 guns.
21 gun salute. There you go.